Welcome to the DZ Report. Don't you know I love haters? Now, appeal raises $150,000 for girl ordered to pay family of accused rapist she killed. Judge had no other option but to impose restitution on human trafficking victim given probation with risk of 20 years prison time. Donors to a GoFundMe appeal have raised enough money to pay the $150,000 restitution, and Iowa court ruled the teenage human trafficking victim must pay to the family of her accused rapist, whom she stabbed to death. Piper Lewis, who's 17, was originally charged with first-degree murder in the June 2020 killing of 37-year-old Zachary Brooks of Des Moines. She pleaded guilty to manslaughter and willful injury, both punishable by up to 10 years in prison. On Tuesday, a Polk County District Judge, David M. Porter, deferred those prison sentences. If Lewis violates any portion of her probation, she could be sent to prison to serve that 20-year term. As for being required to pay the estate of her rapist, this court is presented with no other option, Porter said, noting the restitution is mandatory under a state law that has been upheld by the Iowa Supreme Court. A former teacher of Lewis, Leland Shipper, organized the GoFundMe appeal, which by Wednesday lunchtime had surpassed the required amount. I am overjoyed with the prospect of removing this burden from Piper, Shipper wrote, adding, a child who was raped under no circumstances should owe the rapist's family money. Shipper said the money would be used first to pay off the $150,000 restitution and an additional $4,000 owed to the state. The surplus would then remove financial barriers for Piper in pursuing college/university or starting her own business, and give Piper the financial capacity to explore ways to help other young victims of sex crimes, Shipper said. Lewis was 15 when she stabbed Brooks more than 30 times in a Des Moines apartment. Officials have said Lewis was a runaway seeking to escape an abusive life with her adopted mother and was sleeping in the hallways of an apartment building when a 28-year-old man took her in before trafficking her to other men for sex. Lewis said one of those men was Brooks, who raped her multiple times in the weeks before his death. She recounted being forced at knife point by the 28-year-old man to go with Brooks to his apartment for sex. She told officials that after Brooks raped her yet again, she grabbed a knife from a bedside table and stabbed him in a fit of rage. Police and prosecutors have not disputed that Lewis was sexually assaulted and trafficked, but prosecutors argued that Brooks was asleep when he was stabbed and not an immediate danger to Lewis. Iowa is not among the dozen of states that have a so-called safe harbor law that gives trafficking victims at least some level of criminal immunity. Lewis, who earned her GED in juvenile detention, acknowledged in a statement before sentencing that she struggled with the structure of her detention, including why I was treated like fragile glass, not allowed to communicate with friends or family. My spirit has been burnt but still glows through the flames. She read from a statement, hear me roar, see me glow, and watch me grow. I am a survivor, she said. Prosecutors took issue with Lewis calling herself a victim and said she failed to take responsibility for stabbing Brooks and leaving his kids without a father. The judge peppered Lewis with requests to explain what poor choices she made that led up to Brooks' stabbing, and expressed concerns that she sometimes did not want to follow rules in juvenile lockup. The next 5 years of your life will be full of rules you disagree with, I'm sure of it, Porter said. He added, this is the second chance that you've asked for. You don't get a third. Carl Schilling, spokesperson for the Iowa Organization for Victim Assistance, said a bill to create a safe harbor law for trafficking victims passed the Iowa House this year, but stalled in the Senate amid concern from law enforcement groups that it was too broad. There was a working group established to iron out the issue, Schilling said. Hopefully it will be taken up again next year. Iowa does have an affirmative defense law that gives some leeway to victims of crime if they commit a violation. Under compulsion by another's threat of serious injury, provided that the defendant reasonably believed that such injury was imminent. Prosecutors argued that Lewis waived that affirmative defense when she pleaded guilty to manslaughter and willful injury. So, welcome to America, where you're the victim and you're defending yourself to get out of being captured and being, of course, taken advantage of. But if you stab somebody while they're asleep, oh, you're the person who's in the wrong. You're basically the person who didn't care about those kids' dad. Those kids need to understand their dad wasn't shit. He's a sick bastard. And I would tell them to their face, your daddy wants shit. Like, straight up. You're basically punishing a woman who was scared for her life. She's not even a woman. This is a little girl. She's a little girl. She's a baby. I know people want to put that age limit, oh, you're 18, you're an adult. No, you're still a kid. You're still in your teenage years. When you become 21 or 22, to me, that's when you become a full-fledged adult. But they don't recognize it as that. So I'm glad she had people around her who helped her with the building a GoFundMe because she needed it. You know, this is something that's very traumatizing. And I want victims out here to see how Americans don't give a damn about you. They don't. You know, they don't care about us. All they want to do is use us for their agenda and for their narrative. And for her going through what she's going through, man, that is sad. Like, you can't even imagine how she's feeling. And then you're going to say she got to pay the victim. She got to pay the family of the person trafficking her and raping her. Come on. See, this is how American is. They allow all the little trafficking, the sexual misconducts and stuff like that. You know, it's crazy. They'll allow that to go down. Excuse me. They'll allow that to go down. They'll let that go with a slide. Like, yeah, that's cool. It's crazy, man, but this is the country we live in. You know, that's why I tell people, man, be careful out here, you know, especially when going through this, because you don't know what can happen. You have no idea what could happen. So, now, the state law will release second-degree murder suspects without bail the end of days. When the new Illinois law takes effect next year, it will do away with the cash bail system in the state, meaning suspects charged with felonies, including second-degree murder, aggravated battery, and arson will be released without bail. Excuse me. The Counter Signal reports the Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity Today Act, also called the SAFE-T Act, would end cash bail and includes 12 non-detainable offenses: second-degree murder, aggravated battery, and arson without bail, as well as drug-induced homicide, kidnapping, burglary, robbery, intimidation, aggravated DUI, aggravated fleeing and eluding, drug offenses, and threatening a public official. When the law takes effect on January 1st, 2023, criminals charged with the crime mentioned above will be released. Criminals charged with the crime mentioned above will be released without bail. The bail system will be replaced by a system that considers the offense severity, the risk of not appearing in court, and the potential threat to the community if a person is released, the Jacksonville Journal-Courier reported. When signing the legislation, Governor J.B. Pritzker remarked the measure marks a substantial step toward dismantling the systemic racism that plagues our communities, our states, and our nation, and brings us closer to true safety, true fairness, and true justice, according to the outlet. Supporters of the measure say it's a step in making the justice system equal and fair, especially for minority communities. House Chair of the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus, Representative Cam Buckner, who's a Democrat out of Chicago, told Capital News Illinois that the SAFE-T Act was the first stab at addressing public safety issues and police distrust in minority communities. The 800-page law also addresses detainee rights, police certification standards, use of force, and body cameras. But it's the ending of the cash bail system that's getting the most attention. Supporters of the law say that the cash bail system is not fair for poor defendants, but a rising chorus of law enforcement officials and prosecutors across the Prairie State are sounding the alarm. State attorney says it will be the end of days when law goes into effect. Will County State's Attorney James Glasgow said in a YouTube video it will be the end of days once the law kicks in. He says the hands of police, prosecutors, and judges will be tied. What you see in Chicago will have here, Glasgow said. Excuse me. My allergies are acting up. Sorry, y'all. Glasgow said he won't be able to hold people longer than 3 months if they demand trial. On the 90th day they get out, no matter what crime they committed, the state attorney said. He called on voters to demand of anyone running for election in November to repeal the measure. The bill will destroy the city and the state of Illinois, Glasgow said. I don't even understand how the people who support it can't realize that. Will County is the second largest county in the 6-county Chicago metro region, according to the Counter Signal. 3 county officials bring law to the public's attention. Brown County State's Attorney Mike Hill, Sheriff Justin Oliver, and Mount Sterling Police Chief Brandon Norris said in a 1,800-word statement that releasing so many suspects in this manner will have disastrous consequences for the entire state of Illinois. Those who support the new law say the current system imposes a different justice system on defendants who can afford their bond compared to those who cannot. While we agree that a person's freedom should not depend on their bank account, completely eliminating the current system was never the answer, they said. Abolishing cash bail means that every person that is being held in jail awaiting trial will have their bonds exonerated and community safety will be put at risk, the statement read. The 3 Brown County officials noted the new law is full of contradictions, ambiguities, and is very poorly drafted. Lawyers across the state are all scratching their heads wondering how the new system is going to work and keep people safe, the statement continued. Additionally, beginning January 1st, 2023, judges will no longer be allowed to consider the person's threat to the community. Serial domestic abusers, sex offenders, and residential burglars will be set free without judges being allowed to consider public safety generally, unless the prosecution can prove by clear and convincing evidence that the accused poses a real and present threat to a specific person and no condition can mitigate the threat, the statement noted. The 3 officials concluded their statement by saying they didn't want to incite fear, but to educate the public on the reality coming on January 1st. When someone commits a crime in Illinois, that person will not be held in jail absent extreme circumstances, the statement read. An Illinois Supreme Court commission that studied the state's pretrial system for 2 years released a report in 2020 noting, simply eliminating cash bail at the outset without first implementing meaningful reforms and dedicating adequate resources to allow evidence-based risk assessment and supervision would be premature. The Courier-Journal report states Republicans have pushed back against the measure and tried to rally support to repeal it. So basically, if you do a crime in Illinois, instead of you going to jail and everything, awaiting bail, they just let you back in the community. So that's basically what they're saying. So they're basically trying to use the, oh well, some people who have money is allowed out while people who are poor have a tougher time getting out. That's the way the system was created. To me, you didn't have to get rid of the bail system. You just had to use it better instead of taking advantage of it. Like when you got somebody arrested who is, of course, in a impoverished situation, you try to charge them X amount of dollars to get out. Whereas the person who has money, you give them a slap on the wrist. They just pay this and then they're out. You didn't need to get rid of the system. You just needed to tweak it. But see, that's what's wrong with America. And I told you, we're ran by a bunch of idiots and people who are agenda based. They knew this law wasn't. They put this law in order. And all this I'm saying is allegedly. Everything I'm saying on this video is allegedly. But they knew what they were doing. They did this on purpose so they could cause more chaos, more craziness. So then they can basically, I believe, in my opinion, bring in martial law. I believe they're going to bring in martial law once it gets out of hand, and then they're going to, start taking things in that measure. They're going to start getting away. They're going to start getting rid of the police and putting it more into the military police hands. Watch what I tell you. Because it's the reason why they did it. They didn't do it to help somebody who's in poverty or struggling. That's bullshit. So that's the reason, in my opinion, they did it. And this is allegedly. So let me know in the comment section what you think about it. And about this and about the girl having to pay her the victim having to pay her abductor. So let me know, guys. Thank you for listening. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share this. Hit the notification bell to select all to receive upcoming notifications. And if you love what you hear, you can go to the description box, hit that link to my Cash App, and donate whatever your heart's desire. Thank you for listening. It's the DZ Report. We're signing off. Peace.